So we're going to move on to our first presentation of the day. I'd like to invite Mr. Mauro Scalia, Director of EURATEX, the European Apparel and Textile Confederation, to come on stage. You can applaud. You can applaud. So today he'll be speaking on the topic, the European Union legislation transforming the textile value chain, perspectives and outlook of the European industry. So for now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Mauro Scalia. Is it working?
Thank you. Yes.
Good.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very big pleasure for me to be here. It's a honor. We had yesterday a great discussion in the first day, and I hope to share with you some interesting information. Do find me after my presentation if you want to go down with any topic that I present. Don't hesitate, please.
Is it working?
I have to point somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, so what is EURATEX? We are the European Industry Confederation for Textile and Apparel. My job is to speak every day with the European industry and with the European policymakers to make policy and legislation on sustainability. Basically to address all the problems that Sandra has mentioned at the beginning about the social and environmental impact of textiles. What we represent is 200,000 companies in the European Union, 1.3 million workers, and more than 170 billion. It's a big industry, as Europe makes the second largest exporter for textile and apparel product after China. We don't do this alone, because I am Italian, but I live in Brussels, and we represent all the European industry. You see here the members of EURATEX, the National Association, and also some companies. You might know Hugo Boss, Zara, for instance. The majority of members are association at national level. I was saying the second largest exporter of textile and apparel product after China. You see here some figures. It's about 280 billion. This includes intra-EU trade, like between France and Italy, for instance. But that's in total the volumes. We also have Korea, South Korea, Republic of, in this picture, of course, right before Hong Kong, Cambodia, and so on, with 10 billions of exchanges. Now, the EU-Korea trade is very significant. And interestingly, it has even doubled after the COVID time, reaching from 1 to 2 billion of export from EU to Korea, and is now a bit decreasing in line with general negative trends from the market all over the world. Limited demand and other issues. This is what I would like to talk to you about. But please don't be scared. I'm not going to talk about all the 16 pieces of legislation. But my message here is that there are so many pieces of new legislation that are being made in Europe to change everything about textiles. And I'm going to focus on the most important one. Also, what I would like to say is that there is an interesting time in Brussels where sustainability remains a priority, but competitiveness is the new priority as well of this European Commission led by Ursula von der Leyen, which started last year. So the goal is to become more sustainable, but also more profitable. Because as a matter of fact, there are too many difficulties for the business right now. High energy prices, geopolitical instability, changes in the demand, structural problems. All of that have to be addressed at the same time as we continue our goals on sustainability. And that's the message from our president says we want rules to do more sustainable, and we want everybody to comply with those rules, what we call level playing field. So this is the first piece of legislation I would like to talk about. It's called the Ecodesign regulation. Some of you might have heard about it. Now, legally speaking, started entering into force July last year. We say, get ready, like you're running. You're not going to run a sprint, you're going to run a marathon. Because even though it started in July, nothing has happened yet, but we will see a lot of changes in the coming years. That's why I say it's a marathon. It's a long, but slower but long run. So what we have now happening in this legislation is that the brands will be obliged soon to report about garments that they don't sell and they discard. It's going to become mandatory in the next few months. And this is to contain the phenomena of overproduction. So the lawmakers want to contain excessive production business models. The biggest change will be as of 2028. Any brands, European, Korean, Chinese, or whatever, that wish to sell garments in the EU must comply, after this date, with performance and information requirements. And this is going to be groundbreaking, because today you can sell a very poor quality product in Europe as long as you don't put toxic chemicals. But tomorrow you cannot sell a product if, for instance, the color washed away after 2 cycles, 2 washing machine cycles. It's just an example, but that's the spirit of this law. It's increased quality. And this is a big exercise. It requires a preparatory technical work which started already in 2023, and it will not be completed until 2026. So when you make this kind of legislation, you need to study the value chain. They ask us many technical questions, and they will also make an impact assessment. So before they make the law, they will check what is the impact of this legislation in the European and world market. This is how the legislation is made. I'm just going to give you examples. There are studies made, which takes a lot of time. We're now halfway. It's called second milestone out of 4. The point is that periodically, the industry is being asked, what do you guys think about that? What are your concerns? What are your interests? What are your best practices for sustainability? And these are the kind of inputs we suggest, we recommend. We, for instance, ask about physical durability. So we want to make it mandatory to have higher durability of product, so that a garment, for instance, does not disintegrate after 2 or 3 uses, or is not using very cheap, poor quality fabrics, for instance. We want to facilitate reusability, also with better information how to take care of garments. And we're very much interested in recycled content, because recycling, we heard yesterday a lot, it's a way to reduce the footprint, to use the same resources more and more. It's a very difficult one, but we try to find a way how to encourage the use of recycled material into new garments. It's also important on chemicals, substance of concern. We want to use the same chemicals already regulated under REACH, the main legislation, and we want to have more information on those chemicals. The digital product passport, it's one of the most debated topics. And to be honest with you, I was very surprised how much this topic is so relevant in Korea. For battery, for textiles, for other sectors. We heard so much about that yesterday. So what I would like to highlight in these few minutes is that the important condition to have a digital product passport made by the brands is to have information for the value chain. A brand, doesn't matter how powerful or rich it is, needs to have data all the way from their suppliers, including SME, also in Korea maybe, or all over the world. So this will require standardization and interoperability, which is a very bad word, which means you can exchange information using the same software that you have in your company, basically. Big question we are discussing, what to do with this information. How to ensure business confidentiality. We want to be transparent, or we don't want to give all the trade secrets. So we need to find compromises. And very important, the custom authority will have to have access to this information to check if a product is compliant or not. So consultations are happening on this point. One thing I guess it's interesting is that when the European Commission make this work, they openly ask questions to everybody. You can reply, as companies, as industry association, even as citizens, even if you are 11 hours flying time away from Brussels, a bit more than that. So these are examples. So there are these, what they call public consultation. You will see the link where you can go and you can answer or reply some questions. Sometimes it's very technical, sometimes even boring, but it gives you the chance to express your point of view. And as a matter of fact, EURATEX also work with COFOTI, which is the Korean Textile Industry Association, which is here represented by at least 3 colleagues. We've been working with COFOTI for many, many years. We signed a memorandum of understanding back in 2009. That's Korean, you understand better than me. I don't know what is written in there, but I do know that in 2009 we did sign a memorandum of understanding, and perhaps we're gonna work even more in the future on DPP, another topic. Sale on product information. Yesterday we heard a lot about the carbon footprint. Now this is a very tricky topic. One of the information that consumers and business want to exchange on garments is what is the footprint of this product. In Europe, we have completed something called the Product Environmental Footprint Methodology, PEF or PEF. And you see here some link, bottom left, which explain to you all about this work. It took us 5 years, tremendously amount of time. In Korean, you have a beautiful word called bali bali, I think, which means quick, quick. This was not bali bali, not at all. And to make things even more complicated, some other member state, France in this case, made a similar methodology, which entered a bit into conflict. So what will happen is that in the next 2 years, this methodology will be improved, will also probably align with the French experience, which is already legally and voluntarily available, to have one single methodology to measure the footprint of garments. This is absolutely important because if we have one methodology, then we consumer can compare any product, no matter who makes it, and we can even trust better the businesses, the brands, that they will not choose indicators more favorable for their production and maybe turn a blind eye on something they are not comfortable with. And it will actually even help them not to be threatened by legal action. Happened, for instance, in Germany. Adidas, in April, was questioned by the Court of Justice in Germany because their claim on sustainability were not suitable according to the law. Now, if you have one methodology, not only you simplify the life of consumers, but also the one of the business. So that's why we want to have this. Waste. In Europe, we produce 7.5 million tons of textile waste every year. We expect this to become 9 million by 2030. Big question is what we do with this. We do not have an answer yet. So there is this legislation called Waste Framework Directive, which should enter into force in October, which will create an extended producer responsibility scheme, EPR. What that makes, it makes obliges or give the chance to brands to pay a small fee, a few cents per garment, and with this money, you organize the collection, the sorting, you can even subsidize the higher cost of recycling. This is going to be introduced over the next 30 months, so until April 26. In every EU member state, there will be a scheme to collect money from the brands and to use this money again via this PR organization that will be created in every member state to, again, finance and find the answer to the question, what do we do with 7 million tons of textile waste every year? Chemicals. We have a legislation called REACH in the EU, which is, they say, one of the most comprehensive legislation on chemicals around the world. It has been almost equaled in Japan. I understand also in Korea there is a lot of matching between this legislation and the Korean one, but I don't know the details. And two things we're going to see in this area. One is the ban on PFAS chemicals, which are actually very harmful. They're called the forever chemicals. They're used in every sector, and they have also contaminated some areas, especially when it comes to the use of fire extinguishing foams, but they will also be banned in garments. As a matter of fact, we don't use PFAS in garments. Anything we wear does not have PFAS, because there is no reason to put PFAS, but special products like firefighters' uniforms or bulletproof vests need these chemicals. So what industry like us we do when there are these consultations is to explain when some uses are critical and need to be preserved, like in military or technical textile application, and we have no problems in removing PFAS, legally speaking, from any garments. REACH will also be revised, so updated towards the end of this year. So in case there are some chemical experts in the room, you might be interested to see how this legislation is going to change in the next few months. Due diligence, it's about not the product, but the organization. So until now, I spoke about product requirements, information requirements. This is about how the company operates, how the company look at the risk in the value chain, mitigate, anticipate, or remediate to those risks. Due diligence, it's a big thing all over the world. There are legislations across the States, Europe, Australia. I'm not familiar with the situation in Korea, but I'm sure there must be some sort of provision also here. What is interesting is that now we had 3 pieces of legislation which are obliging companies to look at the value chain and even publicly report on what they do. I will not enter in details, mindful of time, but again, if there is any question, please do find me after the presentation. We can gladly talk about these or any other aspects. And the last point on legislation is about market surveillance. This is a rare picture of the European Commission boss, Ursula von der Leyen, which clearly say that there are some brands which do not comply with the rules. And she even mentioned 2 brands from the neighboring country of China to say, for example. Now, the reason why I show this picture is because normally they don't do this. They don't put the finger at one company or the other. And let me be clear, this does not want to stigmatize any company whatsoever. It could be this or other companies. The message is that the importance of ensuring market surveillance is now a priority in Brussels. So making rules, but also make sure everyone can comply with. And there will be new strategies for this. So when it comes to legislation, I have exhausted my quick overview of some of the 16 pieces of legislation. I hope I have confused you enough until now. And before I conclude, I want to spend my last 2 minutes in mentioning 2 special initiatives that we launched as EURATEX. One is about market surveillance. We worked on this 3 years ago with our members. We make an analysis how market surveillance works in Europe. We spoke to the authorities in Germany, in Lithuania, in Italy, and asked them, how is your work? How do you actually check that this jacket does not contain toxic chemicals? And it's a very difficult job, because in some countries they have maybe 2 experts for thousands of containers which comes to the country every day. It's impossible, as a matter of fact. So we made some recommendations to see which chemicals you should check in which product. But what is important is that we help the authorities to find the capacity to make market surveillance. Otherwise, we will make rules that the compliant businesses will respect and the non-compliant businesses will ditch without any chance to be caught. The second and last initiative that I would like to quote, it's rehabs. I think this is quite interesting. It's an initiative that we launched 5 years ago, and we published a report with McKinsey Consulting Company in April 2025, July 14th. I remember the day because it's public holidays in France. What this report explains is the business case of recycling textiles. Essentially, it says you can make up to 5.5 billion euro profit every single year with the saving of energy, saving of chemicals, saving of materials, and creation of new jobs. So it demonstrates, according to our research, what is the value of recycling. It explained that you need to build 250 new facilities in Europe, which involves collection, sorting, preparation for recycling, and actual recycling. And this is growing, even in time of difficult economic conditions. Now it's a private organization. It has 20 members from the chemical side, and it's open even to Korean companies. And it's even maybe an inspiration for other companies. That was my last message. And we now can dance, apparently. I wanted to conclude with these two sentences as a key takeaway. Everything is changing about textiles are made, chosen, and disposed of. And it is so complex and so big that we need to work together. I know it's a buzzword, so I say we can't do this alone, which is the same word used yesterday, but I wrote the slide before. So I think there is full agreement. Thank you very much, and please, let's speak later if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scalia, for that very clear and informative presentation. He's given us a very good overview about how the EU legislation are changing and what it means for the textile industry.